Now I'm going to create the spine. Let's go to right view, and the spine starts from here. Just follow through. All the way to the neck. This will be my spine. I'm just gonna make a little bit less, like so. Draw the neck, and then draw one more bone for the head, and one more bone for the jaw. So we would, instead of doing the left side, we're going to take and do the following. We're going to select all our bone chains. I'm using right click to select not the ones in the center, because we don't have to duplicate these ones. Instead of just drawing them by yourself, we can go to create skeleton and just do a duplicate symmetry. Select the appropriate plane. In this case it's YZ, and hit OK. So you can see maybe our object is not symmetrical, which can happen. So we just have to make some fine adjustments here, here, or just move it by yourself with snapping. Ctrl J, and let's see, this one should be here. The more time you spend planning and actually rig, the better your object will end up being able to animate, easier to animate. So now, if we look at our schematic, we have everything separated. It would be nice if we can organize it a little bit. So let's do the following. First thing we need, snap, perfect. We're going to use the same set of nulls to control the angles. Primitive null. I'm going to change it to a box. None. Box. I'm going to use yellow this time. Let's see, if we follow our schematic, we have the vector. So I'm going to duplicate, transform, match translation to the ankle, and do the same thing with the second one, which if we follow in our schematic, the vector is this one. So middle click to repeat the last command, middle click, vector, there we go. So those will be our ankles. So now constrain, position constrain to our right ankle. I'm going to use the same thing. The vector, transform, position constrain to the ankle. And then we need the same for the foot, for the toes. For the foot and toes. This time it's not going to be the vector, it's going to be the root. Constrain to the ankle. And the same here. I'm just going to right click. Constrain to the ankle. This is how it's coming. Always make sure you know and test whatever you're doing. See, I missed something here. So this would be the vector, constrain, position to the ankle. There we go. Next I'm going to get another null, translate it, match translation, match translation, and I'm going to make this the pelvis, none, box. I'm just gonna make it wider like this, and like so. Make it different color, maybe light blue. Now we have just to put everything together. Parenting. I'm going to get another null. This time can be like rings. None rings. And I'm going to scale this size to 0. And I'm going to scale it like so. And red. This is called rig. So parent here, the ankle bones, the ankle controllers, this would be right ankle. The second one would be left ankle. So parent this guy, parent to this guy. Right now I'm just organizing a little bit our scene. I can turn off in constraint links so I don't get distracted. So we have in the hand, so parent to the effector, and this we need a clavicle. This, the root would be child of the effector, like that. So we have one arm. Let's do the same with the other arm. We can either parent this like so. We're starting to clean it up. You can come and do it if you want. Parent here. This parent here. This one parent in here. And I'm going to position constraint. Position the spine to the pelvis. This way I can rotate the pelvis without affecting the spine, and it can move like so. We need to parent the legs so they follow. See how that looks. And we just need the neck. One easy thing to do is, for example, if I go wildcard effector, I can select all the effectors and I can change all the shape of the effectors to, let's say, small rings. 0.2 and change it to some yellow. So now it's easy for me to know which ones are the effectors and which ones are the roots. So now I know that what I'm missing from the chain would be the neck and the head. So parent to the effector, and with the head I'm going to do something different. I'm going to just constrain the root, constrain position, that, and then parent to the head. Why did I constrain position? Because I want to be able to rotate the neck and have the head bone independent. I can still come here and rotate the head the way I want it, but I want it to be independent. So let's see if everything follows. I can also, I'm going to parent to the pelvis. What happens right now with our foot, we're losing the foot. So we're not going to do something different. We're just going to come here to our foot. So right now the foot is following the ankle, so we're going to change that. I'm going to select the root and remove all constraints. I'm just going to constrain it, position to the effector. Do the same to the other leg. This is a foot control. This is a foot root. Check it. Constrain, removal constraint, constrain, position to the effector. So now if I rotate or translate the pelvis, the foot will try to follow its position, but will continue with the body. Let's create the abductors. Primitive null, transform, match translation to this one, to the knee, duplicate, middle click to the other knee, select both, move them backwards. Let's make them some nice pyramid, small pyramid, like that, and constrain chain up vector here, and let's do the same for the other one. Middle click. Let's just rename this will be left leg tur. Like that. Let's do the same thing for the other one. Be right leg up vector, and we should have similar to the arms. Let's select both of vectors, Ctrl D to duplicate, translate, and we're going to do the following. We're going to apply the up vector to the bicep bone, not to the forearm. Watch what happens if I apply it to the forearm. I'm going to select the forearm, constrain, chain up vector, select the up vector. Now when I move my effector, it's just going to pivot around the center, and the up vector won't work as we expect it to work. So to get rid of that up vector, we can explore the selection, skeletal and chain up vector, delete, and there's one more thing we need to do. If we do it, still won't work. Select the bone, press enter, and change the chain subchain behavior to default. When I move the effector, that will be back again to regular IK. So this time, make sure you select the femur, make sure you select make sure you select the bicep bone, constrain, chain up vector, and select the up vector. Let's do the same thing with the other one. Middle click, left click. So now we have an up vector constraint. And when we translate the vector, we have our IK chain. Okay, let's continue. And I usually make the arms a little bit smaller and different color. Let's see, bluish, purplish. This one 0.75. That would be the beginning of your rig. Let's see if we have everything together. We have the up vectors. We'll just parent them to the rig. Make sure nothing missing. We still have to parent. Let's see. This is, what is this? The leg. The two foot. Parent them to the rig since it's constrained. And our head, it's constrained, so we'll just parent it the same to our rig. Pretty much set. And now everything we're gonna move, we can accidentally move like that. Set neutral pose, and I'm just gonna save it. Save frequently. Save as skeleton rig. Let's say this is work in progress. So now what happens if I rotate the spine? Let's do something with the hands. Let's get null, match translation to the wrist, and I'm going to create some rings. Make them a little bit, something like that, and let's make them red. I'm going to transform to the other wrist. Now, I need to duplicate, transform to the other wrist. But there you go. So now we have to constrain the same thing. We have to constrain the wrist effector. This is the root effector is the one in orange. Now what I'm going to do, refresh, is constrain the position of the wrist to our controller. The same with the other one. It's effector. Check it out. If we come and move it, you can see the arm is following. So middle click, constrain position. So now watch what happens if I rotate. The hands stay. Translate. The hands stay. If I want the palms to stay, instead of, let's see here, let's see, instead of, we can come here. See, right now when I move the body down, the palms rotate like so. So let's say we want to, when we move the body, the palms should stay like that. So select the forearm, Alt Enter, you get all the property page, and go all the way to the end where it says select the bicep bone, Alt Enter, and all the way to the end where it says effective rotation, affected by last bone, and I'll select that one. We'll do the same with the other one, and I'll select that one. So now let's see what happens. Our palms stay. There are several ways you can rig depending on what type of animation you want. You can parent this to the pelvis and the arms will follow, or you can just have them independently, so that way you can pose your character the way you want it. Let's set neutral pose, so we can return here. Now let's say we want to pose our character like that. And let's do one more thing. We're gonna use these two to rotate our palms. We can select multi and make them, instead of bones like that, we'll just make them like a wedge, like that. Resembles better. And the size, that's fine, something like that. We can understand better. And set neutral pose. So right now I'm done with all the effectors. I can just hide them, and all the root I can just hide them, so it's a lot cleaner. So let's say we want to pose our character. We come here, we move the wrist and move the hand the way we want it. Come here, move the wrist and move the hand. This is how we typically do to animate your character. And undo, and you can also use reset pose. Save, work in progress. Now we come to actually what is called enveloping or deforming. That will be the next topic.